A Course in Miracles, Lesson 323. I gladly make the sacrifice of fear. The mind bows here, not in sorrow but in recognition of how little was ever asked of it. What is called a sacrifice is only the release of what was never real. Fear, with all its borrowed authority, all its trembling pages, all its invented debts, is the only offering placed on the altar today. And even that is not taken by force. It is surrendered because it is seen. Once seen, it cannot be kept. Here, the so-called cost is nothing more than allowing the false to fall away. Pain, loss, sadness, anxiety, doubt, these were the ornaments of a frightened mind, not the inheritance of God's Son. To lay them down is not deprivation. It is the unclenching of a hand that never held anything real. And as the hand opens, love pours in, not as a visitor, but as the rightful occupant returning to its own home. Joy returns, not as a reward, but as remembrance. Wholeness reappears, not because it was repaired, but because nothing had happened to divide it. This is the debt paid to truth, the willingness to stop deceiving oneself. Nothing more, no punishment, no penitence. Only the release of idols built out of smoke, self-images worshipped in fear, defended in fear, mourned in fear. When they dissolve, what remains is what has always remained. Only love. Peace is not achieved, it is uncovered. Fear is not conquered, it is recognized as impossible. And so the mind rests again in the awareness it had only misplaced, never lost. The sacrifice was never a loss. It was the end of pretending there was something to lose. Lesson 323. I gladly make the sacrifice of fear, because the mind knows, somewhere beneath the noise, that fear was the most expensive thing it ever tried to afford. And it could never pay for it. Not with suffering, not with sacrifice, not with all the years spent trying to bargain with shadows. So when Lesson 323 says, I gladly make the sacrifice of fear, it is not asking for courage. It is asking for honesty. Honesty about what was carried. Honesty about what never gave anything back. Honesty about the fact that fear was the longest-running loan shark in the dream. Charging interest every single day. Interest in sleep. Interest in peace. Interest in joy. Interest in trust. And after all that interest, nothing was ever received. That's why sacrifice sits in quotation marks. Because the Course is laughing gently. How can giving up nothing be a cost? Here's the story for a 10th grade mind and a 1st grade heart. A boy once found a locked box in his grandfather's attic. Carved dark wood, iron hinges, a heavy clasp. It rattled when shaken. He spent years trying to open it. Every locksmith failed. Everyone told him it must contain something valuable. Maybe coins, maybe jewels, maybe the secret to the old man's life. The boy carried it everywhere. He protected it. He got into fights over it. He hid it under his bed at night. He built his identity around being the one chosen to guard this treasure. One afternoon, now older, tired and worn out, he tapped the box against a stone step. It split open instantly. Dust. Nothing but dust. Not even dust, really, just the residue of old newspaper that had been degrading for decades. He stared at it. And then he laughed, one of those laughs that comes from the bottom of the chest, from a place that knows truth when it sees it. He had protected nothing. He had carried nothing. The weight wasn't in the box. The weight was in the belief. This is the sacrifice of fear. Opening the box, seeing what's inside, discovering there was never anything there. And now the line hits differently. We pay the debt we owe to truth. What is that debt? Not penance, not punishment, just the willingness to stop lying to ourselves about the contents of the box. The world uses debt to enslave. You owe, you lack, you must repay. The Holy Spirit uses debt to free. You owe only the letting go of what was never true. Once that debt is paid, once the lie is dropped, truth rushes in like clean air into a room that's been closed too long. Love returns to awareness not because it traveled, but because the obstacle was removed. Fear is gone, and only love remains. This is why the mind gladly makes the sacrifice of fear. It is the only trade in which nothing is lost and everything is gained.